Welcome into the halfway house, everyone. This is our off-topic brand where we talk about just fun stuff in sports. And what a better time than today. Today, my Yankees will play the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Not your Red Sox. They're on the golf course. They're on our other channel. So we want to talk about tonight. I know. I'm just giving you a hard time, Steve.
Wow.
But we love sports here. So we
We
want to
do
talk
love
about
sports here.
tonight. What are most iconic or favorite sports moments in history that we were there for? Not that we
Yep.
watched on TV, that we were there live for. So, and I know our fans on the tavern, and Bradley, one of them, is going to say drink to everything we say on this list.
Correct.
So,
I mean, this is the tavern drinking game.
don't drink to this one because this will kill you.
You're gonna get in trouble. This is like our Taylor Swift drinking game. You'll get in trouble if you try that.
100%. So
yeah.
we're going to talk more than they show Taylor Swift on the Jumbotron. So without further ado, Steve, I'm going to lead it off with you. And what's one of the top ones, because we're going to talk a few here, that you were a part of, that you got to witness in person?
Something that nobody forgets that watched this game. I was there when the lights went out in New Orleans at the Super Bowl. And when the Super Bowl is going back there this year, one of the coolest things, I kind of lucked into it. New Year's Day, I got a phone call from a buddy of mine that said, "Hey, my girlfriend's working the game. She works for the league. You want to go to the Super Bowl for free?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go. Never been. I can drive to New Orleans. Let's go. I'm in." And to be at a Super Bowl anyway, and it was the Harbaugh Bowl. Ravens Niners, and the game itself really became a game after the blackout. If I'm ever playing Three Truths and a Lie, I can say I saw Beyonce in concert.
I can actually say that too.
Right. But yeah, the lights going out and everybody knows, like, oh, I was at the Super Bowl and the lights went out. Everyone's like, "What? You were there?" Yeah, I know, I was in the stadium. And I will say, having lived through things like 9/11, it was kind of nerve-wracking being in the stadium because you're like, what's going on? Because this doesn't happen.
I remember watching it, and I knew you were there. And I was at a friend's house when I lived in Florida at the time. So I knew you were going to the game, and I remember when it happened on TV, and I was like, my buddy's there. So I like, we all thought like.
My phone blew up. Like,
yeah.
I can't tell you how many text messages I got. Some of them were, "What did you do?" Others were, "What's going?"
Turn the lights back on.
Yeah, turn the lights back on. Others were, "What just happened?" But I think that is one of those moments in time where in sports, we all know where we were. Like,
yeah.
Because it's, again, the Super Bowl is the most watched sporting event annually anyway. People that don't watch football watch the Super Bowl. So when you have this big event and all of a sudden the lights go out, I mean, the only thing I can compare it to that we can both remember when we weren't there for it.
The 30th anniversary is this year, if I think what you're about to say.
The earthquake game.
Yes. I think it's the 30th anniversary of the earthquake. Was like yesterday or something.
Yeah. So again, like there's really only two things that you can think of that have happened in sports where something like that happened. And funny enough, I don't know if you know him. I have a friend of mine that works at Disney. We used to work together. That was at that game and has those tickets framed in his house.
Yeah.
And my buddy Evan, like he was at that game, and still one of the coolest things. I mean, I laughed that, he was at the game where the building started shaking, almost broke, the old candlestick. And here I am at the game where the lights go out. Like
that's,
Greg,
that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. What about you? What was
one of mine that I will say is the NLCS in 2016 when the Cubs clinched to make the World Series that they eventually won. I was at that game where they clinched and won and made it to the World Series. I also did get to go to the World Series, a game in the World Series as well for that. But the clinching, getting them into the World Series was one of the most fun events that I ever got to go to. And my sister-in-law worked for the Cubs at the time. Yeah. And So, I mean, I still paid for my tickets, had to pay, face value for them. Was one of the most exciting things. My wife got to go to some of the other games in that series, but I missed out, for, actually a medical reason. I missed out one of the games, I had to stay home, and they were like, "Hey, that's gone to this game, game 6. We got an extra ticket. Do you wanna drive up to Chicago?" And I'm so glad I did because
Yeah.
that was one of the greatest parties, I will tell you, I have ever been a part of. And I'm a Yankee
I
fan, but I love the Cubs too. But that
Yep.
party after the game, um, in the stadium and outside the stadium, that city came to life like I've never seen before and was just fun because you had the history of how long they've been out of the World Series. And this is from won the World Series, and this was their best chance, and they took advantage of it. And it was one of the
Yep.
best series to watch. So
All right,
that was mine.
I'm going to ask a question, and I want to take this back to what we normally talk about. What's the coolest thing you've done? What's the coolest thing you've seen at a golf event?
At a golf event, so I go to the Heritage every year,
Hmm.
at Harbortown. That's a fun one to go to. Um, one of my favorite moments at a golf event, is more of a personal moment, was the first US Open I ever went to with my dad, and it was what was it? The 1993. I have the flag right here. That's what I'm looking at just to get the year
Yeah.
right. 1993 at Baltusrol, and I remember going with my dad, and that's really when I was getting into golf and my love of the game, and my dad like sharing his interest with me at the time. And I remember going and watching, all these professionals play, and I was a young kid at this time, and it was amazing to see, and it was that
Mhm.
one time where I could kinda see, like, "Oh, anyone can really do this." It's not like basketball and football and baseball where you're, like, groomed and pedigreed to do this, from a really young age. You can see that anyone can really do this. You have to be really good at it too, just like
Yeah.
any other athlete. But my dad, we were watching, so a lot of players play, and he said, "Hey, I want to go over here and I want to watch this guy that hits the crap out of a golf ball, and I want to go see him do it." And and he was like, "We're gonna go watch John Daly play." And that has turned into like I've gotten to hang out with John Daly. I've gotten to
Yeah.
do some kind of stuff like that. So it's cool that over time that became a really cool moment, and it's a moment that I'll remember with my dad for
Yeah.
the rest of my life. Like, and that
Yep.
um, my dad and I now this year get to go to this flag right behind me to Augusta together. We've both gone
Mhm.
separately, but we get to do that together this year, which is going to be another one of those special moments. And that's the fun part about this. And that's been my
Yeah.
favorite golf moment. What about you, Steve?
I'd have to say being there, a moment, and we've talked about this. I went to school in Jacksonville, went to college there. I was fortunate enough to be a walking score at the Players Championship for my junior and senior year. Worked for NBC and just had a blast. My junior year wasn't really crazy, but my senior year, it was funny. I had a couple really cool moments leading up to Saturday. Friday afternoon or Friday morning, I walked with Phil Mickelson, Jesper Parnevik, and Bob Tway, um, and which was a really cool interaction to see those players interact. That afternoon, I walked with John Daly, as you've talked about, and Curtis Strange and Nick Faldo, which are three very different golfers across the
Mhm.
board.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
um, and on Saturday, I got sent out late, fifth to last pairing of the day. It was Jeff Maggart and Len Matisse. And Lenny had worked his way up the leaderboard, was actually in second place going into Sunday. And I was supposed to walk with my childhood hero on Sunday, Freddie Couples, who I just absolutely adore Freddie.
Who doesn't?
Um, right. I mean, he's
Let's
just
be
Captain
honest.
Cool.
Yeah.
And we were standing on the 18th tee, and they were pushing Lenny's mom around in a wheelchair. And she, unfortunately, that summer passed away from cancer. And Lenny's dad, and if you've ever been to Sawgrass, the old way they had the stand set up, there's a cart path right at the 18th green, and there's some stands behind it and stands to the right of it. And you're standing there, and I was standing there with Lenny's dad and his mom, and we were talking as the players were putting out, and we were sitting there whispering, just talking. And Lenny's dad said to me, "Can you be with us tomorrow?" He goes, "I feel like you put Lenny at ease today." And I will say this: Jeff Maggard is a nice guy. Jeff Maggard, I don't think, talked to his caddy the whole day. Like, he made a bomb for Eagle on 2, and I'm inside the ropes. I'm not outside the ropes. I'm inside the ropes with media credentials on. And I literally, as he's walking by me, I was like, "Great putt, Jeff." And literally his hat was down, and he just beeline to the third tee and didn't say a word. And that's just the way he played golf.
You got that focus
And
sometimes. That's what it is.
yeah. And Lenny and I just started talking, and we just talked. Like, we just talked. We talked about, he's like, "Where do you go to school?" Like, his mind was kind of at ease. And it was kind of funny to watch, because you can learn a lot when you're that close.
Mhm.
You can learn a lot outside the ropes at a PGA Tour event, but when you're that close inside the ropes, you learn a lot really quickly about playing golf. And Sunday came around, and I actually was paired with Lenny, and he was paired with Scott Hoke, who, again, another great dude. And we all talked, and like, if you've ever played in a tournament golf, or been at a pro-am, when you get to certain tee boxes, there's bottles of water, and usually at the turn, they've got snacks like bananas and trail mix and different things like that. And I'd grab a bottle of water and bring it over to Scott's wife and Lenny's mom and dad, and just trying to, again, they're pushing Lenny's mom around in a wheelchair, like, give them some water. They need that. And they were all walking together. Scott's wife and Lenny's parents were walking together. And probably the coolest, the like most uplifting moment was, we were on 12. Joe Durant was leading the golf tournament, and he was in the group behind us, and Joe dumped it in the water on 12. And I knew that, because you can hear everything that's going on in your headset and what the players are doing. And Lenny makes a bomb for birdie, like a 25-footer for birdie on 12. And because of Durant had laid up and then hit it in the water, so the best he was going to make was like bogey, and we all knew that. And I looked over at Lenny's dad, and I was like, "We're in the lead." And he's like, "What? Tied?" And I was like, "No. Durant just dumped his second in the water on 11. We're in the lead." And it's one of those moments you have to kind of pinch yourself. He turned around and punched the dude next to him in the shoulder and said, "That's my son. He's leading this golf tournament." And I thought, what a cool dad moment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, as we have kids now, like, that would be me. Like, that would be me talking about my son leading the golf. And so, unfortunately, Lenny bogeyed 13. Kind of stayed into it. Justin Leonard played great on the back nine. Had worked his way into the lead. He was up by 1, and Lenny standing on the 17th tee. And you talk about athletes being in the zone, and we've all heard, if you've played sports, you've all heard this, where like they don't hear the crowd around them, and they don't hear anything. And I know that the crowd yelled, and Scott Hoke had gotten up on 17 and hit one like this. Like, he hit a stick leaner to that Sunday flag on 17. And Lenny hits the shot that looks better in the air than Scott's ball did. And I'm looking at it going, go in. Like, I'm thinking, like, this might be the greatest walk-off ever, like, as a fan. And we don't see it land. He hits it, and I don't hear a thing. Like, you could have dropped a pin in front of me. I heard nothing. I didn't hear the crowd scream. I didn't hear anything. And I'll never forget, Roger Maltby was standing to my right. And Lenny looks over at Roger, and he goes, "Roger, did that go in the water?" And I'm reaching for my yardage book going, there's no way. Because at one point, Johnny Miller was in my headset going, "Spotter, what's he hitting?" And I'm like, 9, because I watched pull the club out of the bag. I'm like, 9. He's like, "Confirm 9." I'm like, 9. Like, and I'm sitting there talking to Johnny Miller in my headset. And he hits this thing and flushed it and hit it over the back of the green into the pond on 17. And I'm looking, and I'm trying to figure out a number back there on that line. And it's like 145 back there to cover on that. And we're not talking about a Pro V1. We're talking about the days of the Tour Bellata that didn't fly as far as the Pro V1 did. And I'm sitting there, and I'm going, it's long? There's no way he hit that covered that. Like, he hadn't hit a ball that good all day. And it was one of those things for me. And I will tell this story. Unfortunately, rest his soul, Tim Rosafort. They signed their scorecards. I talked to both of them. I was walking out, and Lenny's dad was standing behind his mom in the wheelchair and doing an interview with a bunch of media people that were asking him a bunch of questions. And I tapped his dad on the back, and his dad looked at the media and was like, "Excuse me 1 second." And he wrapped his arms around me. He was holding back tears, and I could hear it in his voice. He said to me, "What did he hit?" And I said, 9. And he goes, "Damn it, I knew he should have hit wedge." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, I was shocked it went that long. He goes, "Yeah, there was a lot of adrenaline there." He goes, "He did hit 9 though?" I said, "Yeah, he hit 9." And I will never forget, he's holding back tears, and I'm like, "You can cry if you need to." And he's like, "No, I'm good. I got to go talk to these media jerks." and and I go to walk away, and I was like, they had invited me to dinner. Like, I spent Saturday and Sunday with them. They'd invited me to dinner that night, and I was like, "No, this is time you can spend with your family. I don't need to be there for this." And Tim Rosafort grabbed me, and he said, "Were you the walking scorer with them? Do you mind if I ask you some questions?" And I was like, "Sure." I mean, it's Tim Rosafort. What am I going to say to the guy? He's one of the best golf writers to ever live. And I looked at him, and he goes, "Well, first off, what's your name?" And I said, "I'm not going to give you that, Tim. This isn't about me, and I don't want my name associated with the story. This story is about Lenny and what he went through, and wish he should have won." And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, so he asked me, he's like, "What did he hit?" I was like, "It was 9." He goes, "It was?" I said, "Yeah, it was 9." He goes, how good did it look from the tee?" I said, "It looked better than Scott's ball." I said, "I'll be honest with you. Like, I thought he made it. I was about to go jump in the pond. Like, if that thing had gone in the hole and he made a 1 there, all he had to do was make birdie on one of the last 2 holes, and he wins the golf tournament." Instead, he makes an 8 on 17. And he's like, "Oh." And so he's asking me some questions. He's like, could his parents see the shot? And I was like, "Tim, there were 25,000. We were the second to last group standing on the 17th tee box. There's 25,000 people around." Like, I was helping his parents around the golf course most of the day. At that point, I couldn't see a thing. Like, there's just a mob of people there. And, it's one of those moments where I look back and I think to myself, I'm glad I didn't give him my name, because his story wasn't about me. But I will say this, having a front row seat on 17 at the Players for the second to last group on Sunday, one of the coolest things I could ever say I've done in my life. Like, I really, truly think, like, I pinch myself sometimes when I think how lucky I was to have that seat.
And that's the cool thing that we're talking about here today on this is being there for these moments. That's what sports is about. Sports is about those moments. That's why we
Mhm.
watch. We watch for, like, I'm going to watch starting tonight for the Yankees to win game 1 and
Yeah.
go for another World Series. They've won a lot of them, but it's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of that
Well,
for
and
them.
I'm going to say this, and I'm not even a Yankee fan, but you think about the Jeffrey Mayer game, or you think
Mhm.
about Jeter, Mr. November. Um,
I
you,
still remember
you,
watching from home Jeter's last game and, like, the hit he made in his last game. Like, it
The
was,
walk off, yeah. And
yeah,
I'll be honest. I'm a diehard Red Sox fan, and you know this. I cheered
yeah.
that hit because, again, respect for Derek Jeter. Um, my mother was in labor with me in 1975 when Carlton Fisk waved one fair at Fenway. One of the coolest moments in World Series history.
Yeah.
When you think about
You all
cool
we all
moments
know
that,
the
yeah, the Kirk Gibson walk off, the Joe Carter, "You'll never hit a bigger one. Touch them all, Joe." You know what I mean?
the
Like,
shot heard around the world.
around the world,
Like,
yeah, like
that
Bill
we're not
Mazeroski.
old enough to, like,
To know, yeah, but, like, when you think about the things that we've gotten to see, um, you know,
I'm
the different Jordan moments, Jordan on
the
Elo,
flu
Jordan
game.
on the flu game, or Jordan on Byron Russell. Like, when you think about those games, or you think about, um, the
The
Scotty Pippen,
Giants taking down the
the
undefeated
Pa-
Patriots.
Patriots,
Like,
yeah, the catch on the helmet,
so
like,
so let me ask you this, Steve. So we've talked about,
yep.
like, the ones we've been to. We've talked about the ones we've witnessed on TV. What's
Mhm.
something that you can still probably witness that you would love to witness someday in a sporting
Mm.
capacity? What's the, like, a one
So
thing that you wanna see?
I've I've been to a Super Bowl. I've been to the Masters.
You've seen a grown man
Um,
cry.
yeah.
It's a dodgeball
Um,
quote.
yeah. Um, I think when you look at where I would say, like, the top of my bucket list would be to go to a World Series game. I'd love to do it at Fenway. I would. Like, that's, like, the top of my bucket list. And I honestly think at this point in my life, if the Red Sox ever get back there, I'm probably buying tickets, because it's such a cool moment. Um, I think I'm going to say this. I really wanted to go to the Ryder Cup next year in New York. um,
So if you want to donate to Steve's dream, you can.
yeah. Anybody got anybody want to donate some plasma and help me out?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think that when you look at where, because of the things that I've been to, like World Series would probably be up there. I'd love to see a cup get skated. Um, I think that is one of the coolest traditions in sports, and I would love to be there for that. But again, it's so hard to getting tickets for a clinching game unless it goes 7.
Oh,
Like
it's
it's so hard to predict that. But yeah,
I got lucky
so
in a game 6 that I got to see that. So
right. So, I think at this point, that's where I would say probably the next thing on my list would be to be
the
at
Sox
a
World
World
Series.
Series, Sox World Series. What about you, Greg?
So, well,
What
I'm
about
going
you?
to answer yours first. So, I agree with you on the Sox World Series because I think that's an iconic stadium, and I got to see it at Wrigley. So, and I think
Mhm.
seeing the Cubs one was made it that much more special with all the history
Yeah,
that's there. And so, to be honest, I'd go with you to the Sox game because I do like a good
sure.
Fenway game. Um,
Yeah.
even though it is
And
the Red Sox.
Who doesn't love a Fenway Frank? I mean, let's be real.
I gotta say, I love the bar in the outfield. That's not even in the
Oh,
stadium that I go to.
another
Like
great
that's
spot. I feel like we need to do.
um,
There's another
we
place
do.
we should do a podcast from.
We should do one from there. Um, but and I've gotten to see a Stanley Cup. I haven't seen the game clinching game to see it skated around the ice, which I would love to see that. But
Yeah,
funny enough, like the one thing that I want to see live is not a championship. I go to every single Major League Baseball game that I go to, and when the first person gets a hit, I get pissed off. I want to see a no-no thrown live. I've seen it on
yeah,
TV. I want to
it's
see a
fair.
no-hitter thrown while I'm at that game. Now, I was just at a few weeks ago one of the shortest games in Major League Baseball history at
You
an
were.
hour and 48 minutes.
Yep.
And that wasn't a no-no, but I mean it was pretty close to
Yeah.
what a no-no would be. But that's kind of what I want to see because I've been lucky enough. I've been to the Final Four. I'd like to go to the Frozen Four. Now that I've been to
I've heard that the Final Four is better than the Super Bowl. People have said
the
that.
the Final Four, and I got to see the Final Four the COVID year when it was here in
Okay.
Indianapolis, and
Yep.
it was half people in the stand, half those crazy cardboard cutout fans. Um,
Do you have a
Here at
selfie with
Lucas
one of
Oil
those? I
Stadium.
just want to
I
know.
I have a picture of one of them, not a selfie with one.
Hmm.
And I got to see Gonzaga make that winning shot over UCLA in one of the greatest games I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was a great game.
Um, that a comeback for UCLA there. Gonzaga was the team to beat
Yeah.
that year, and um, what's his name on the Magic is who hit that shot.
Oh,
Uh, I'm blanking on his name right now.
I'm blanking on his name too,
Yeah,
and I
so
like him.
yeah,
He's
he's
a
a
good
great
player.
player. But it was
Yeah.
awesome to see that he jumps up in the stands. They win the game. That was the second
Yep.
game. The first game wasn't that exciting between Houston and Baylor. It was a
Yep.
blowout, but
Yep.
that second game was unbelievable. With that, I
I
think
will say and I know you want to be at a no hitter. Um, Unfortunately, we were on the losing end. My wife and I were dating, and I took her to a Red Sox game in Tampa at the Trop. And Longo had a walk off in extras when he played for the Rays,
uh,
and it's the only walk off I've ever been to. And I will say, kind of annoying that it ended that way because I would love to see the Red Sox bounce at home plate, not the Rays.
yeah,
But
you
no, I
can't see a
mean,
walk off for your team, and you're in the away
no,
stadium. So
in a visiting dugout, no. So, but no, that's having seen that, I would agree with you. I'd kind of like to see a no hitter. That is kind of one of those things that like perfect game no hitter. Like my
yeah,
buddy Al has been to, he saw Derek Lowe pitch no hitter at Fenway,
nice.
and pitching a
Oh,
no
that's
hitter
kind
at
of cool.
Fenway's
Yeah.
that's even harder than a regular no hitter because of that ballpark and the design of it. So,
Well,
but no,
perfect. So if you like these shows, like give us some stuff you want us to talk about. We talk
hey,
about
and you know
sports on
what?
here.
In the comments below, let us know if you were at a cool sporting event. Tell us what sporting events you were at that you saw something cool happen. We'd love to hear about it, and feature them on the show in the future.
Yeah, tell us your stories. Tell us what you also would you like to see. Something that's on your bucket list to go see that's not $750. So
Well, Super Bowl
With
tickets
that-
are more expensive than that. But
That is true, but that's a little bit different. So,
Yeah.
all right. With that, cheers, everybody.
Deuces.
I'm really fortunate, man. I mean, have an opportunity to build something that's
It has gone viral on our TikTok. That somebody was commenting about playing Whistling Straits for 700